So my big current life goal, I guess, right now is essentially to be an off-grid homesteader. That's where I want to go. I want to do the whole thing, off-grid homestead, be self-sustainable, and then essentially be able to help other people do the same thing.
You are listening to The Dr. Haley Show, the podcast dedicated to helping you optimize your health. Each episode, there will be an interview or a message to help you discover better health. We will be featuring health radicals on the show to bring new ideas to the table, as well as doubling down on key fundamentals to support you living your best life. Your host is no other than the founder of Haley Nutrition, Dr. Michael Haley.
This is the Dr. Haley Show podcast. Today's guest is Nick Craciun. Nick is a product of, a former guest of mine, Tim James from Chemical Free Body. Nick had some challenges in his life and joined the Inner Circle group coaching program. He took to it so well, he started doing all the things that were recommended and became a coach himself. We're going to be talking about his transformation. He's kind of young. He's not a healthcare professional. He doesn't have a doctor's license. He's speaking from his own experience as he's probably, I'm guessing, Nick, welcome to the show. I'm guessing you're still on your journey and probably learning every day.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm almost 60 years old and I've studied like you wouldn't believe. And every day I'm still thinking, no, there's still another level to this. And you're in your early 20s, I believe. Is that correct?
I'm 33.
33. Okay.
Yeah.
I did not know that. Okay. Wouldn't have guessed. Now, I do want to ask, because you got like the oxygen thing that you're wearing. What's that?
Oh, this is the AquaCure. So it's for molecular hydrogen is what it does.
Oh, okay. And what does that do for you?
Really just like a ton of different benefits. So our body's made up of about 64% hydrogen, which that's most of our body, obviously. So obviously we have a big focus on like oxygen and stuff like that. So oxygen is something like 8% or something like that. I don't remember offhand, but basically most of our body's hydrogen. So basically if we're giving our body more hydrogen, you're supporting all the bodily functions that you need. One of the biggest things too that I've seen with the AquaCure and molecular hydrogen is essentially it's anti-aging. Whatever is going on in the body that is causing aging, this helps reverse it. So I've used it for my feet because I had a really bad work injury 2 years ago, and there's like a little bag that comes with it, and you can put it in the bag so it helps heal the scars. One of the biggest things with this is basically repairing scars. So I've definitely seen over 2 years, I've seen my scars on my feet get better. So
now,
it's
how many hours a day are you wearing that?
I try to do at least 2. I'm at my desk working, so I try to have it on while I'm here. But yeah, I try to do at least 2. I use it while I'm at the sauna, but I'm always drinking the water. Like every time I drink water, I put it through that too, because then it charges the water with the molecular hydrogen. So
yeah, I understand that hydrogen is one of the most powerful antioxidants. Am I correct in that? In other words, you have a free radical. It's essentially missing a hydrogen. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your experience. If I understand correctly, at some point in time, you lost 60 pounds of toxic waste. And I say that a little humorously because excessive waste, blubber, is where we store our toxins.
Yep.
And from what I understand, you were drinking energy drinks and living off those. So kind of high sugar, chemical filled, processed foods and drink to get through the day. And I also recall hearing that you were one of those, tinfoil, and you maybe still are a tinfoil hat kind of guy a little bit. I think we all are.
Yeah.
And just absorbing a lot of content. And at some point you kind of drifted into the health area and Tim James had gotten your attention. What was going on? How were you brought up? How did you surround yourself with all this, toxic nutrition and consume that on a daily basis? And what did it take to finally wake you up and say, hey, this is not right?
Yeah. So I think a lot of it goes back. I mean, obviously up until a point, I was just kind of like, living with my parents and eating standard stuff. We didn't eat like horrible food. Like we didn't eat a bunch of processed food. Like we had good dinner each night. It was kind of a steak and potatoes house. So we ate a lot of steak and potatoes, but, they kind of just let me drink pop and, eat candy and stuff like that. And grandparents spoiled me. So I kind of just, every time I go to my grandparents, I'd have some bread and butter and a big bowl of cookies and cream ice cream with chocolate syrup or something on it. It's, yeah, of course the grandparents be like, oh yeah, honey, go ahead. Just, there you go. But yeah, around 14, it was like right around when I got in high school, I started getting really depressed. I didn't know what was going on. Obviously, I was just kind of like, I just didn't have energy. I didn't have motivation. I just kind of was just like there going through the days, just felt like crap every day. Obviously, I had no idea why, but, you know, it was kind of, luckily, I never went on psych meds. I never, you know, maybe it's not good. I probably should have went to therapy or something like that, but I was never on psych meds early. My parents never really did that, but they also didn't necessarily help. They kind of were those parents like, oh, just be positive. Just, you know, don't think negative thoughts. I'm like, it's not how it's working. I can't just not think negative thoughts if it's just kind of like part of my body. So,
you know, I am going to jump in on there because anyone listening to this, there is truth to that. Meaning, when you're thinking of good things, you know, the scripture says something to the effect of, you know, whatever is good, whatever is excellent. Think about such things. There is a health benefit to it, and it does affect your body chemistry, the nutrition that is in you. However, that you're fighting with all the toxins that you've taken in. And if you don't clean those up, you know, you need more than just positive thinking. You can't turn chemicals and crap into good nutrition by thinking it. You can't think it good. Yeah. So go ahead.
Yeah. So basically it was, I mean, like 14 years going through that. Once I graduated high school was when I had a job and, you know, connect with people, start smoking weed, you get connected to other drugs. And that was kind of that spiral because I was depressed for a while and I just kind of went to that phase where I didn't know what to do. And I was kind of using drugs and stuff to medicate and all that. Obviously didn't work. You know, eventually you get on oxys and stuff like that. I spent like 2 years on oxys, not a good time. And, you know, I basically just all my 20s until about 27 was just total, just hanging on for dear life. I went to college for IT and I did okay for like 2 or 3 years, but then I just totally fell off. Like once I started getting into oxys, I just totally fell off. I stopped going, stopped caring.
What was it that led to the oxys? Was it just recreation or was there, you know, a diagnosis, an injury or something?
No, there was no diagnosis. It was just, I was working at a restaurant. It was offered to me. It helped me work harder and it just grabs you, you know, just grabs you, you get more and more available and there it is. So
I know how potent that stuff is. You know, I remember after a surgery, I took 1 Vicodin and the pain was gone, but I recognized, wow, I want another one of these. And it took 1 and I wanted more. For me, I decided I could not, if I had 1 more, I might not be able to turn back. So for me, I stopped at 1 with the Vicodin. And, you know, I don't know what the difference is between that and Oxy, but there are some drugs that just, wow, how do you say no?
Yeah, oxycodone is essentially synthetic heroin. So I was taking what they were like, these like 30 milligram. I didn't take a whole, I was never the person that was just getting like totally messed up and, you know, nodding off and passing out and stuff like that. It was more so I used little amounts to just keep going and not feel like crap. But obviously it led to me feeling like crap. So it's a cycle, you know, it never works. It never works. I tell you out there, if you're trying to use drugs and to compensate, it does not work. Might work short term, but long term, it always digs you in a deeper hole.
Yes. I like to share with the audience that drugs can save your life. But if you're not using them to just buy time until you figure out a solution to the problem, you're digging a hole.
Yeah. One positive drug that did have an effect, I was about 27 because I was trying all these different things. I didn't know what to do. And I had a stint in the, what was it? Like the mental health wing of the hospital. They basically sent me there because they thought I was suicidal and all that. So I went there and I was on SSRIs for a little bit. Those didn't work. Those were awful.
But I forget what that stands for, SSRI.
Selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. So it just kind of regulates serotonin in the brain. But it really just makes you a zombie. That's how I felt. I had no emotions. I didn't feel anything. Nothing was good. Nothing was bad. It was just here, but it wasn't enjoyable at all. But I did use Wellbutrin, and Wellbutrin was enough to, because Wellbutrin works more with dopamine, and that was able to, like, when I first started using it, I kept telling everybody, I'm like, I felt like my drug addiction was cured, because it filled that hole that I was using drugs to fill. Which I used that for about 2 years, and that really did help me. So I do tell people here and there, like, yeah, if you are really deep in depression, you're really deep in drug addiction, and you need something to get out, like I did it. It worked for me. I used it for 2 years. I got off, and now I'm better than ever. Even when I had my injury at the hospital, I told them I didn't want oxys. I didn't leave with the hospital. They gave me some tramadol, which, I mean, it didn't do anything anyway, so I just didn't really use it or care for it. It was just kind of there. But yeah, I was doing helping my pain naturally. I was using our turmeric product combined with high quality CBD, and I also did use kratom, which I don't know if you know about kratom. It's more of it's a plant. It's literally just the leaf of a plant that's ground up, which is a more, there's a lot of big pharma propaganda about it. So it's like people think it acts in the brain as an opiate, but it's not a technical opiate. It's not addictive like an opiate. But I mean, there are people that do get messed up on it. But for me, I didn't want to use oxys. My pain was really, really bad, and it helped. I stuck with it. Then that was it. So I was able to not do oxys. It did morphine shots in the hospital, but that didn't really do much, But yeah, that pain, I mean, getting your feet crushed by a 3-ton block, that's painful.
Going to that, and, because we haven't talked about it, you were working in a machine shop, which essentially means, there's all kinds of dangerous equipment, things that cut and bend steel, and there's drill presses and all kinds of, you're working with big, heavy items. And what happened?
So basically, we were machining these big 3-ton blocks of metal. They're being used for like fracking trucks or something like that. But the machines we used to machine them were massive. They were the size of garages, But we had we basically take these parts and put them on this big crane and then move them to the machine, stuff like that. Well, when you put them on the machine itself, you have to clamp it down because when you're machining it, it's really metal on metal. If the metal moves while you're machining it, it destroys the whole thing, and then you have a $25,000 piece of metal that's not good for anything. So, but basically, we machined it. It was done. I was going to unclamp it from the table. And when I unclamped it from the table, it fell forward and then fell forward onto my feet. And it was basically against this lip on the edge. So the whole platform was raised up maybe 5 feet. And so it fell forward onto my feet and then pinned me up against the lip there. And I mean, if it fell maybe 2 or 3 inches more forward, it probably would have clipped my feet at the ankles, like just cut them off. But lucky it was kind of just on the front. So also, if it was on concrete, if that fell on my feet on concrete, my feet would have been flat. It would have been over. Mm-hmm. But because it was on this raised platform, it was metal. It pushed the metal down a little bit where my feet were. So it didn't get the full crazy,
wow,
3 ton, it's like a 6,000 pound piece of metal. So luckily, there was a lot of lucky situations about it. The whole platform didn't collapse. It didn't fall forward onto me, just on my feet. And also, we only had like 7 guys there, but 6 guys plus a tow motor and some crowbars. They were able to get it off me enough to get my feet out. And that was the longest. I thought I was going to be under there forever. I didn't know how long I was going to be under that thing, but they did a really good job. The longest part was waiting for the ambulance to come. That was like 25 minutes just laying on there on the floor, just like, holy crap. Because I've never had a major injury at all. I've never broken a bone, nothing like that. And so that was it was definitely a whole thing. I didn't walk for 3 months after that, long recovery. But I also had this realization because I went to the emergency room right after. And, obviously they knock you out and all that and look at everything and all that. When they knocked me out, I wasn't just totally out. I don't know what it was. I don't know what kind of thing it was, but the way I explained it, I was somewhere not in my body, but I was more aware than ever. It was almost like a psychedelic trip of some kind. But basically I had this realization while I was there that this was meant to happen for some reason. I wasn't living the life I was meant to live, and this is what's going to push me forward. It's going to hurt for a little bit, But basically, I don't know if it was like a conversation with my higher self or God, whatever you want to call it. But it was basically a realization that this was meant to happen. I'm going to go on to do the things that I'm meant to do. And honestly, it did all work out. For my injury, the biggest thing I did was be positive, because everyone coming to the hospital and visit me and be like, "Oh, Nick, I'm so sorry. It's so bad. What are you going to do?" And then like everyone's freaking out. Like, you're never going to walk the same. You're going to hurt the rest of your life. Basically all this like just constant negative comments. And then I'm the one there that's like, "No, it's cool. I'll be fine. It's going to suck for a little bit, but I'll walk again. I'll go golf again. Everything will be fine." And that's how it worked out. So like, it's crazy. Like, that's where I had my positivity. Like, I couldn't have my positivity when I was depressed, but when I had this big injury, all that positivity was there. And I was like,
because you had been chemical free for a period of time going into that.
Yeah, that definitely played a big part. Because I was definitely going through like an awakening process, I guess, through that year.
Yeah. Can you imagine having gone into that depressed?
It would have been a totally different thing. I don't know if I would have recovered right. If I would have been on oxys, if I'd have been like, "Yeah, give me the oxy," just something. Who knows where it would have gone, I don't know.
Yeah.
You enjoying the show thus far? One of the many health secrets that we have covered on the show is all around aloe vera, specifically drinking raw aloe vera. Our aloe vera has helped our customers effectively heal their gut, increase their intestine health, lower inflammation in the body, eliminate and or decrease acid reflux, have glowing skin and hair, and so much more. Now, as a frequent member of our audience, you will be exposed to exclusive specials and coupon codes for the awesome products manufactured by Haley Nutrition. That's right, for simply being awesome and tuning in. You can get a mini discount to help you optimize and better your health. To see how we can help and support you on your health journey, tune into the episodes and listen for coupon codes that you can use at www.haleynutrition.com before you make your orders of raw aloe vera. Once again, it's www.haleynutrition.com. Now, back to the show.
So you went from, the steak and potatoes, which, isn't necessarily a horrible diet if you're eating real, clean foods. But obviously the beef these days if you don't know the source, chances are it's filled with hormones and chemicals and antibiotics and all kinds of things that are just toxic to you. You went from that to what? Steak and energy drinks to?
Now I eat a lot of microgreens now because I grow a lot of those. Unfortunately, it's winter in Ohio, so no garden anymore. But I grow some stuff indoors. Like I got a little hydroponic setup. We grow some like arugula and lettuce and stuff like that. But I try to eat as many microgreens as I can, because that's obviously as good as it gets, But I sell at local farmers markets, so I get produce from the farmers market. I do eat eggs from the market, stuff like that.
To the people listening, I want you to tune in right now, because Nick is repeating the things that I love to talk about. It's wintertime. He's in Ohio, but he's farming indoors, growing sprouts, something that we do in our home all the time. We grow our sprouts in our kitchen sink. I'm in Florida, so I'm also growing stuff outside still.
There you go.
Yeah. But sprouts is one of your most nutritious, nutrient-dense foods. You take a little seed, you sprout it, and all of a sudden the nutrition's magnified about tenfold. Now, microgreens, why microgreens and not big seeds and things like that?
So microgreens, I started with growing just the sprouts in the jar. I still do that here and there for ones like fenugreek. I love fenugreek sprouts, but when I started growing microgreens, like I started with sprouts, I was still living at my parents' house when I started that, and that's all I could really do. They didn't want me to set up a whole rack with all the stuff. I didn't have a lot of space in my room. So when I moved out, though, that was like the first thing I did, was I set up the microgreens thing, which actually, when I did move out, it was only a month and a half later when I had my injury. So I wasn't out very long. I was just starting to sell at markets, just trying to get out there, because I knew I wanted to do something with the sprouts and microgreens. I knew I wanted to do something locally and do it. But, the whole injury gave me enough time to do all that. But basically, microgreens, I prefer that because I think it's a little bit more rewarding. There's a little bit more effort into it, but there's also more varieties you can grow. There's more flavor. It goes through photosynthesis, so you get a little bit more nutrients out of it. You're able to add nutrients in it. Like I had ocean solutions to it, just to get a little bit more in there. Yeah, I just really enjoy growing the microgreens. They're fun, they're cool, clipping them, they're flavorful. People love them. So
Generally, the rule of thumb is the more aroma, the more flavor, the more color, the more nutritious.
okay.
And I like mung beans, and I can snack on them like popcorn, and they're going to be nutritious, but they're not going to have the flavor, aroma, or color of broccoli sprouts.
Yeah. Yeah, mung beans are those are like a staple. Like if you grow sprouts, you got to grow some mung beans because they're
I
like
tell
the
people
easiest to
start with
digest
that.
food there is. Fantastic.
It's the quickest, most rewarding sprout in a jar.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
like
in
2
2 days.
Yeah.
You put it in I do half-gallon jars. Those
Same. Yep.
Okay, and you put an inch deep of mung beans. 2 days later, it goes all the way to the top of the jar.
Yep.
So very, very rewarding, very inexpensive, and super nutritious.
Very inexpensive. I mean, you get like a 5-pound bucket for, I don't know, not even like $20, I don't think, on True Leaf. It's really cheap.
I'm gonna have to look into that myself. I used to get them in the bulk area at Whole Foods. They stopped carrying them there, and now you find them in little bags in the aisles. But it does make sense to get the big buckets of them. I actually got a 5-gallon bucket of a mix. It's got the mung bean, adzuki,
like the powerhouse, like protein mix,
lentils. What's the other chickpeas?
Yeah. True Leaf has one mix just like that. I think it's called like protein powerhouse mix or something like that. Yeah, it's like $23 for 5 pounds. It's like nothing.
Yeah, it's easy to get a lot of variety in a single jar. Now, if you were separating them, you would probably grow your lentils a little bit longer than your mung beans, and your adzuki, well, they'll kind of fit in between the two of those somewhere. And your chickpeas, you might go an extra day with if you were sprouting them separately. But you can do it all together and kind of get something in the middle that's nice and tasty and super nutritious.
Yeah. When I eat the microgreens, I just throw a big salad. I just mix them all together. Like you get all the colors, you get all the flavors, you get all the nutrients. I do grow several microgreens with different colors. Like I grow the Rambo radish that's really, really purple. Red cabbage, which is like a really like nice red stems and stuff. I try to get more colorful varieties. The only really non-colorful variety I grow is like sunflower and broccoli, but there is a variety of sunflower that has some red, but black oil.
Sunflower is delicious.
Oh yeah,
but a little more work involved in growing sunflower sprouts.
I like juicing it. I juice the sunflower, sunflower, pea, and then the wheatgrass. Well, I don't do wheatgrass anymore. I do spelt and kamut grass instead. I just try to avoid the modern wheat, as best I can. I also think the spelt tastes better too. It's like a much sweeter taste to it. So I've been growing that. It seems like a little step up. It's a little better than the wheatgrass, but
and what's the big difference for people listening in that have never done this? The wheatgrass, the sunflower sprouts, well, you're going to grow those in soil. You can't just put them in your jar with water. And you want them growing straight up because you got to get rid of the shells and
the holes. Yeah.
And
that's what's nice about juicing them is you don't have to. I don't just like when I have a tray that I know is specifically for juicing. I get some of those holes off, but I don't worry about it too much because it's just going to get crushed in the juicer anyway.
Yeah.
So it saves time for doing that for sure, because that is the biggest pain of growing sunflower for sure, is getting those hulls off. But
I actually like eating the sprouts myself, and just like the mung beans, eating them like popcorn, or putting them, like you said, in a salad, or if you're making sandwiches, okay, you can put them on the sandwich.
Sunflower is probably the best to snack on, I think. It's like really just something about, there's a good texture, good flavor. They're really good to just take a handful and eat them.
Yeah. When you use them in a salad, are you using lettuce in a salad, or is that your lettuce now?
So sometimes when I had a garden in the summer still, I was growing lettuce, so I would take some lettuce from that and kind of be like the base. But a lot of times when I make a salad, it's just microgreens, just a big thing of microgreens.
Yeah, for me, if you look up the definition of salad, it could be a mix of, well, fruits, vegetables, meats, nuts, seeds, you generally eat it cold, but some of the components might be cooked. So we might make some cooked beets and chop them up and then have them in the refrigerator and then scoop some into our salad. Or al dente carrots, because I don't really like raw carrots, but I don't like them mushy either. I kind of like them a little bit al dente. So we'll make those ahead of time, keep them in the refrigerator, scoop some into the salad. And if you're a meat eater, you might put in a little tuna or even steak. If you're a meat eater, quality sources. And that's your salad. But what I haven't bought in a long time is lettuce. I can't justify it just because there's not enough flavor. There's
Especially
not enough
iceberg.
nutrients.
Yeah. The only lettuce I'll eat is really romaine. Iceberg is just like eating water, and also that water is probably pesticide ridden and all that. So it's not really worth eating iceberg. That's why I used to go places and like eat steak salads and stuff like that back in the day, but it's like everywhere you go, it's just iceberg. You pay like $15 for a salad. You get like a little tiny steak that you don't know where it's from, and throw all the other stuff on it. Some places are better than others, but I'll make a steak salad occasionally. I do have a source locally. I can get some good beef. So I'll have that here and there, because back in the day, steak salad was always kind of my favorite. It's like a combination of everything, and throw a little potatoes in there too. But I don't do it as often anymore. But I do it right.
Yeah. And I agree with that. I happen to have a, grass-fed source where, we, with some friends, will split a quarter or a half cow kind of thing.
Yeah, that's the way to do it.
Getting all different kinds of cuts. And now, when it comes to animal foods, I'm just thinking of this on the cuff. Yeah. Have you ever killed your own?
I haven't.
It's one of those things, because for some people, animal foods are, people don't like it because there's life involved. And I would say that too many people have been too distanced from the taking of that life to truly appreciate what they're getting and what that exchange is. When you take a life, kill a chicken, you eat the whole thing. You just don't feel right, throwing parts of it away so you can move on to the next one that you're going to kill.
You have to respect it.
You truly, yes, it's done with respect, and you appreciate it. You're not just eating the big meat, and you're literally picking it all off, getting it all, and then you might even simmer down everything that's left over and make a bone stock soup out of it and get the most nutritious parts of it. And that is something that you kind of learn by being involved in that process. There's kids these days that don't realize that hamburger is an animal food.
Go ahead.
Oh, where does it come from? I thought it just came from the grocery store.
Yeah.
You're too far removed from reality. So
yeah, that's a lot of people today.
Yeah. So, the nutrients, they are in animal foods. Where do the animals get them from? From the plant foods. Yes, you can eat the plants. And when you're consuming animal foods, you're hopefully eating animal foods that have consumed the plant foods. Not the fake stuff that's been fed the genetically modified,
corn and grains and
wheat sprayed with chemicals, Roundup.
Yeah.
So you went through this transformation. You're chemical free. You have a horrible injury, and you avoid the drugs as much as possible. How do you think that affected your ability to be walking again in the period of time you did, and with the mental attitude? How much impact do you think that had?
Oh, I think it had a great impact, because I was told by basically everyone around me how bad it was and that I'll never be the same, and I just kept being in my head, no. I just no, I'm gonna recover. I'm gonna be fine, and I was, that's like when I keep thinking back, I really, really believe, the fact that my body was getting cleaned up. I did a lot of cleaning up in that year at that time. I think that definitely had a major part in me recovering, but also just like that positive mindset really, really kept me going through it. And I'm, not to say I didn't have a few days here and there. It was 3 months sitting at home in a wheelchair. So
still
of course I had I still had a day here and there where I'm just like, But, then I would just be like, hey, friend, can you come over and hang out with me for a little bit? I'm feeling a little down. And then come over and hang out with me, and then I'll feel better.
Where do
But
you think you'd be today if you didn't go into that with your new diet and mindset?
I mean, I could still be recovering. I could be on oxys for all I know. I could have very easily seen, because the second day I was in the hospital, like the initial day I was there, like, yeah, it was bad. But when I woke up the next morning, I mean, that was like 11 out of 10, like cut my legs off, I'm done pain. And I was like really, really, really close. I was like, 'cause they were asking if I wanted oxys. I'm like, do I really want to try it? And even my dad was like, maybe it's, if it's that bad, maybe you should. And I'm just like, but eventually they didn't give it to me because they knew I had the history. And so they just didn't. And I'm like, I'm really glad that was, because, it's really tough when you're in that situation. Like all you're thinking about is how I want my legs cut off because they hurt so bad, and I'm really glad that I didn't cave in that situation. But if I did, who knows where I could be now? I could be in a gutter on heroin. I don't know, but
Right.
didn't. So here I am, and I'm able to talk about the story and how I was able to recover, which to me is really important, because I know that there's a lot of people out there that get in that situation, and don't come out of it right. I've heard numerous times from people where regular person, never did a drug in their life, totally good person, they get an injury, something along the lines like I happened, maybe a car accident, hurt their back, whatever. They go into the hospital and they're given pain medication, and then they get out of the hospital or whatever it is, they're on the pain medication for 60 days, but then they get off it, their pain's still there. They can't get any more meds from the doctor. And so what do? They go look on the streets, and then they end up on heroin or something. And it's like, I've seen that story numerous times. And it's really sad. It's tough because like totally normal people that just, all they did was trust their doctors with an injury. And then they have this like, crippling addiction now.
Yeah.
So it's sick.
So instead of being in that boat now and still being on drugs and with your, new life and new health perspective, are you still working with Tim James?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
How so?
I will stick with Tim till the end. Like I love Tim.
Yeah.
I love what I do, and we're growing as a company, obviously. So it's really cool to be a part of the journey to grow. I do customer support. I love doing that because I literally just, people call me and ask me questions and give advice, and I'm able to kind of like share my experience and talk to people a little bit. There's sometimes people call just a regular call and we have a 2-hour conversation just because we end up talking about things and giving advice. They're telling me about their story, and it just kind of leads to, a lot of these connections, a lot of people I've been able to talk to learn even more. Because a lot of these people I've talked to too has also helped me on my journey, because I can hear what they've done, what hasn't worked for them, what worked for them, what they've been through. So it's this constant knowledge, and I can use that knowledge to help other people. I'm just trying to kind of follow in the Tim step, or the footsteps of Tim, because he, he's doing a lot of the right stuff. So I kind of just followed his lead and go from there. I'm doing my own little things here locally. Like I do teach some classes on microgreens, how to grow microgreens here locally and stuff like that. I'm trying to get more involved locally because my area, Northeast Ohio, doesn't care much about health. Like I'm getting through a little bit, but it's tough. It's tough when you live in an area that doesn't care much about health to break through with health, especially when it's like people are kind of, I don't know if cheap's the word. Not everyone has a ton of money, or they don't feel it's worth spending the money on good food.
Yeah, I'm chuckling a little bit because I'm from near where you are. I grew up in a little town called Strongsville, Ohio.
Oh yeah, okay.
You probably
it's about like a hour from me, I think.
Yeah, probably, maybe not even. You're in like the Youngstown area, I believe.
Yeah, no, I was like middle of Trumbull County.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to say it again because, you mentioned the microgreens again, and people, if you're not growing your own, I'm glad that you're teaching people to learn how to grow them. If you can't, if you're not willing to, you don't have the time to, buy them. They're so good for you.
Sprouts in a jar, though, to me, they do have automatic sprouting machines. They're like $150, but literally all you do is put in the seeds, fill it up with water, and then you don't have to do anything. And then 4 days later, you have a container full of sprouts. So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you got the extra money, but you don't have the time, that absolutely works great. But I mean, for me, when I was working on 60-hour weeks for a little bit at the machine shop, I was still growing the sprouts. But I'll never forget that time because it was when I first started growing them, and I would be so excited to wake up in the morning. Like, it was one of the early times I was just really, really excited to wake up in the morning to go check on my sprouts, see how they did, water them in the jars and stuff like that. I had my little morning routine of waking up. First thing I did was water the sprouts, see how they were doing. But I mean, I grew nothing in my entire life. I never grew anything. And I went right into growing sprouts in jars with success. So it's really not that hard. The biggest thing I always tell people is the number one thing that makes them go bad is drainage. If you're not draining them properly, they will go bad in the jar. Besides that, it's mostly foolproof. As long as you get the good lids.
Yeah. Essentially, if you're listening and you haven't done this yet, there's 3 things you need: a jar, a lid on it with holes, and some beans or something to sprout. That's the easiest, quickest. That's your mung bean, your zucchini beans. And now, if you don't want to go that fancy and go out and get a jar and a lid, you can use a pot with a colander. Who doesn't have a colander already? And right there in your sink.
Yeah, there's like stainless steel, like wire things. Because I've had times where I had seeds and I pour them in there, and then I just like let them drain for a little bit, and then I just kind of was like, you know what, let me just see if they'll just grow in here, and then I'll just throw them in the colander, and they do just as good.
Absolutely.
So I have to water them a little bit more because it's not contained in the jar for the moisture to stay in there. But besides that,
but if you're putting your colander in a bowl, then it's easy to keep them submerged. For that first day, and then you just lift the colander up to change the water and submerge them again. It's really the reason you want to change the water in that first day as you're keeping them submerged is you'll almost be making beer if you don't. But you need clean water. Okay. And then they grow good, and that's nice. I hope you're enjoying this podcast. As a thank you for tuning in, this month, use the coupon code BLESSING, that's BLESSING, for 10% off your entire purchase at HaleyNutrition.com now through the end of January 2025. You can use the coupon to save on top of the already discounted bundled prices. As an example, if you were picking up 3 canisters of Haley Pro vegan protein powder, 3 canisters is already discounted by 20% off the single can price. You can use the coupon for an additional 10% off the already discounted price. And if you were getting a case of 12, it's already discounted 30% per canister. Take an additional 10% off with this coupon code now through the end of January 2025. Thanks for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of the podcast. How important was powdered greens in your transformation?
Oh, definitely important. Definitely important. Because I wasn't juicing at the time. I wasn't eating sprouts or microgreens. And when I found Tim, that's obviously the biggest thing he talked about was the Green 85. And that was, it's literally just a scoop in some water. Which at the time when I found Tim, I was actually taking AG1. So I was trying to focus a little, improve a little bit. So like I heard AG1 and all the podcasts I was listening to at work, and I was like, all right, let's give it a shot. And then, I liked it for 2 or 3 months or whatever. I took it. But then when I heard Tim on the podcast and I got the Green 85, I was like, oh, this is a big step up. It's a big, like, clearly it's better than the Athletic Greens, even though it had like half the amount of grams in it. Like, it was a substantial effect difference when I started taking that.
A lot of them are, they have fillers in it and things that take up space. So you're not getting as much nutrition. You might be having a 10 to 15 gram scoop, but you're still not getting the same amount of nutrition as one where you're really just getting the powdered fruits and vegetables and grasses and the things that really make a difference. My first experience, this is pretty interesting, I think. My first experience with powdered greens was around 2004 or so. And I remember at the time I was taking little capsules with some powder in it. I didn't notice any difference, but I felt like I was doing something that was beneficial for me. And I'm sure it was,
Yeah.
but I wasn't getting enough because you can only fit so much in a capsule. Now,
Yeah.
if you're taking capsules and you're not willing to make the drink, okay, that's better than nothing. But I read this article in one of the chiropractic journals at the time, and it was written by this Dr. John Marr, and it was about powdered fruits and vegetables. And I was bothered by the article because I could tell this guy knew more about phytonutrition than I did. That bothered me. I like being the most knowledgeable person. So I contacted the author of that particular article and had a little discussion. I said, well, what are you doing? He said, actually, I'm the guy that formulated, and he named this particular product. And he said, but now I'm working on something else. He said, you can't buy it yet, though, but I could send you some samples. I said, okay, send me some samples. And I took this stuff and I thought, wow, this is the first time I've ever taken a supplement and I actually feel different. To the point where I was actually concerned. I didn't tell my wife at the time what was going on because I was concerned. I thought, I feel so good. Is there cocaine in this? What's going on? And I started looking up the different ingredients, and it just made sense that, well, okay, these things light you up like you're supposed to be. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't, sick. I was nutrient deficient, and now I had these and my body was working more like it was supposed to. Well, a few days later, my wife at the time, I say that now, she's the mother of my children, no longer my wife, but she approached me and she said something like that, my mom and I noticed a difference in you. Are you taking antidepressants? She thought I was taking drugs because I was a different person because I was lit up by taking powdered fruits and vegetables.
That's awesome.
And I said, no, I'm taking this supplement. Why didn't you tell me? I said, honestly, I feel so good. I'm concerned. Of course, she said, can I have some?
Yeah.
And it was a very noticeable change, life-changing. People, get yourself a good source of your powdered fruits and vegetables. If you've never tried it, take them daily for a week. See if you don't notice a difference. For me, it's not an increase in energy. It's not running out of energy, because most of us wake up with enough energy. But for some of us, we get halfway through the day and, we need a nap, or you get to the end of the day and you don't have time to, you don't have energy left to finish the things. Now, with the powdered fruits and vegetables, you get to the end of the day and you're saying, what else can I accomplish today? What else can I do?
Yeah. Or even then, if you do still get, tired in the middle of the day, like, it's really easy. Just take another scoop in the middle of the day and just, here you go. Just get another shot. It's better than, drinking another cup of coffee in the afternoon or something like that. Because I've talked to people where they would drink coffee regularly in the morning. They start taking greens in the morning instead, and then they stop drinking coffee. Like, it gives me more energy throughout the day. I feel even better. I'm like, there you go.
Yeah, well, you're pushing the limits on that one. I'm not going to give up my coffee. No,
I still drink it here and there. I get life boost.
I enjoy a little coffee, a coffee drink. Now, if I went and had a coffee from McDonald's or something like that, I wouldn't be able to finish it. I'd get super wired. Yeah. So I don't know why. Maybe I'm not making it that strong. I'm actually having espresso, but I'm having it in a nice, I mix it with a little vegan protein powder and some coconut milk. And to me, it's like a treat, but it's healthy. It's carbohydrate free, has a little stevia to sweeten it, make it nice. Organic, of course, and coffee has antioxidants. There could be some benefits. What I'm not getting is so much caffeine that I'm jittered and wired.
Yeah. If you do, I also take like L-theanine, like a little, like 200 milligrams of L-theanine to take with the coffee, kind of balances that out. So if you do get jittery, you can do that. Or I just take it every time I drink coffee. So it just kind of helps regardless. It takes that wiry energy and just kind of gives you a little layer of focus. So it's just a little more clarity for it instead of just being, energy. So
I never have that much, although I'm drinking espresso. And yes, espresso is more concentrated than your typical coffee. It's a very small amount, so you're actually getting less milligrams of caffeine. So
Espresso seems to, whenever I have espresso, I don't have a machine or I don't make it myself or anything, but whenever I do, it seems to, I don't know, it hits a little different. Like it's not like wiry, jittery, but like if I have some espresso and I want to go like work, I could do that. And just to me, it's like, I don't know, it's like a supercharged a little bit. Doesn't last, forever, but it seems to charge me up a little bit more than regular coffee. That makes sense. I don't have it too
I
often,
guess
so.
it depends on how much you have of it. It is definitely more concentrated, but you usually have a lot less of it. So for most people, I would say it's less caffeine than regular coffee because you drink so much more of the regular coffee. Where do you see yourself in 10 years from now? And what are you doing?
So my big current life goal, I guess, right now is essentially to be an off-grid homesteader. That's where I want to go. I want to do the whole thing, off-grid homestead, be self-sustainable, and then essentially be able to help other people do the same thing.
Yeah.
Because, I'm sure with a lot of other people with 2020 and COVID and all that, we saw where things were going. We saw that we were going to push things, and we have to be less dependent on, the government and on these systems. So that's my biggest goal. That's why I started growing food, because obviously I learned about how the food's terrible. You just kind of have to take the steps in your life to be less dependent on these systems, because they could collapse at any moment, the way things are now. So you really have to be able to rely on yourself, have people around you that you can trust, grow your own food, raise your own animals.
Yes, and now we enter into the tinfoil hat conversation.
Yeah.
No, and I joke about it, and my audience knows that I'm that way myself a bit. And when it comes to being, self-sustaining, independent, off-grid, or whatever the case is, even if you're in a regular neighborhood on a small little property that's covered mostly by home and you hardly have any yard, you can still be growing your own food, and you can still be trading with your neighbors.
Yep.
I could be growing avocados and the person next to me could be growing mangoes, and the person next to them in Florida, we're in Florida, could be growing
not in Ohio. I wish.
Well, yeah, but in Ohio, you could be growing, and even in the wintertime, you could be growing mung beans, and they could be growing, wheatgrass, and the next one growing, and you could be trading.
I'm big on that. I do that a lot at the farmer's market, because I'll be there, and if I have some stuff left over, I'll be like, here, trade some microgreens for some eggs or whatever. I do that stuff all the time. I think and everybody that does it, they're like, I love trading. It's great. I'm like, me too. There's something about it. Like, there's no middleman of money. It's just you and the person, you and the stuff, just trading back and forth. There's no intermediary.
The goods are the commerce.
Exactly.
Yeah. It does make sense. And, you could go out in the country and have your acres and lots of distance between the homes and be totally, independent and off grid. But you can also kind of live that same way in the city.
Yeah. It's tougher. Personally, I don't like being around a ton of people, and I don't like being really close together and all that. Like where I live now, it's a small city. It's like 6,000 or 7,000 people, but, the houses are kind of close together, but I have enough room for a backyard. I got some woods behind my house, so it's enough that I had basically half my backyard a garden this year.
I don't think I've heard the term woods since I lived in Ohio.
Yeah.
We had woods in the backyard. I'm in Florida. There's no woods.
Nah.
There might be in some parts of Florida, but not where I am. I miss that. We used to go walking through the woods with our
There is a lot of really nice areas around here. I'm sure you've probably been to like Nelson's Ledges if you lived around here and stuff. Remember Nelson's Ledges?
It was a long time ago, and I'm old, so we're talking literally 45 years ago.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's a very beautiful area. It's just totally natural area. So there's a quarry where it was like a man-made quarry where they dug all the stuff, which is a lake now. But there's also this beautiful wooded area with all these gorgeous rocks and waterfalls and little streams, and little caves to go through and all this cool. It's like one of the coolest areas around. It really is.
That
There's a lot of areas like that around Ohio. That's basically get cornfields, really cool, like hidden wooded areas and stuff like that. And then you get like pockets of city.
Yeah. So in the woods and the creeks, you get out and smell the roses, so to speak, and connect with nature.
Yeah. Can't beat it.
Good stuff. Well, tell us about what you're currently doing, where people should be following you if they want to, learn from you. How do they get in touch with you?
Yeah. Well, I'm doing all my work with Chemical Free Body. I'm the support guy there. So if you want to contact me at Chemical Free Body, it's just support@chemicalfreebody.com. You can email me. The phone number is on the site, 888-368-9898. You can call me anytime. It goes right to my phone and I'll answer. We have no bots. We have no AI support. It's all me. So if you need anything, I'm the guy. For microgreens, if you're interested in learning to grow microgreens or learn to grow sprouts, I love teaching people how to do that. If you want to grow sprouts, I'll just teach you how to do it. I'll spend an hour with you on the phone and I'll teach you how to do it. To me, it's so important for people to be able to do it that I just want to teach people how to do it. Like I tell people around here, like if I could just make a living, doing like other body stuff, obviously, but then on the side, just teaching people to grow microgreens rather than growing it, I would much rather do that. But not everyone has the time or the energy and all that to be able to do it. So, I'm still going to grow for myself, obviously, but personally, I love teaching it.
It will be life-changing for you people. If you haven't done it, do it. Get in touch with Nick. He'll show you how. Can't beat that.
Yeah. If you want to check out my website, though, I have my microgreens website. If you happen to be in the Ohio area and you want to order some off me, it's www.creationsbackyard.com.
Okay, I'll have links above, below, somewhere to the side of this podcast, depending on what platform you are on. Nick, thank you so much for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I hope you enjoyed that episode today on The Dr. Haley Show. Make sure to hit subscribe on whichever platform you are listening to this. If this episode made you think of someone, go ahead, take a screenshot, and share this exact episode with them. You can catch the show notes for this episode on www.drhaley.com. If you want to geek out with Dr. Michael Haley on other radical health topics, be sure to check out his YouTube channel, where he posts exclusive video content. All the details are at www.drhaley.com, and we can't wait to hang out with you on the next episode.